Welcome back to Mini Tutorials for Adobe InDesign. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at RGB and CMYK color. We're also going to be looking a little further into swatches and including where the Pantone colors are within swatches. And we're going to take a little closer look at the Eyedropper tool. So let's go ahead and open up InDesign. Okay, we're back into InDesign. It's important to remember that there are two major types of color systems that we work with, or gamuts as they're called. We work with RGB, which stands for red, green, blue, and that is used primarily in digital devices. So televisions, cell phones, computers, anything with a digital screen, it's pretty likely that it's working in the RGB color space. CMYK, those are the four colors used in the four-color process: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K is black. It means the key color. It's just black. That's used for print primarily. There are converters within InDesign that can convert colors from RGB to CMYK and vice versa. But they are distinct color spaces. There are some colors that exist in RGB that don't exist in CMYK and vice versa. So if you know what your document is intended for, using the right color space will probably help you out, get a little better experience. One other thing to be aware with color, when you're looking on a screen, you're always looking in RGB. And sometimes there's some big surprises when you finally get a document into print. So I would strongly recommend that you get a proof. Really kind of see what it's going to look like on the printer, and then you can make some shifts to the color space as you need to. So let's talk a little bit about where colors are. We've been working so far with the color picker that's connected to the fill color and the stroke color. So if I double click on my fill color, that's going to open up this color picker here, and then I can go through this and pick up the color that I'm working for. Over here on the right, this is showing the RGB numbers that are associated with this. So this is saying red is set to 215, green is set to 81, and blue is set to 74. And then these are the conversions to CMYK for that particular color. Okay, I'm going to say OK to that, but then what I want to do is I want to open up swatches. So I'm going to go to Window, and then in Color, we have a little menu here, and the last option on that menu are swatches. So we're going to open up swatches. I'm going to take a little look at this particular thing right here. These are preset swatches. This is very handy if you have a color that you know you're going to use over and over again. For example, a particular font color or a logo color. Anything that you know that you're going to use more than once, a swatch is a great idea. Down here at the bottom on our swatches, we have several options on how to view the swatches. Right now this is set to show all swatches. There are also something called gradient swatches, so I can save off my gradients as swatches, and I can change that view there. So if your swatches are not set to show all swatches, change that over. This little icon here, this is the New button. Okay, so whenever I want to create a new swatch, I can click on that, and it's going to create a swatch that I can work with. If I'm going for a particular color, what I like to do is I like to pick a color that's fairly close to where I'm going. So for right now, I'm going to pick this, we'll pick cyan as a starting point here. And what I can do is I can drag that color on top of the New button like that, and what it does is it duplicates that swatch. So there's a duplicate of that color. I can double click on that, and then I can open up the sliders that are associated with that swatch. So I can take these sliders, move them in different directions until I get the color I'm looking for. Okay. Now I can give the swatch a name, or I can go with its CMYK value. If I click on this checkbox here, that lets me give a name, or if I click on it again, the name will be the CMYK value, and I'm going to leave it at that right now. Under color type, it's going to tell you if this is a process color or a spot color, so you have a choice there. Spot colors tend to cost a little more, so be careful with that. Color mode, this is where we find things like the Pantone color set. So for example, these are all preset colors that exist in certain sets. There is a web library in here if you're working with web-safe color sets. So I can open up the Pantone sets if I'm looking for a particular Pantone color, and it's kind of a recipe book that all printers use. So if I click on one of these colors, it's going to be fairly consistent across printers because they're all using the same set on that. So I can click on that. There's a Pantone blue, I can say OK, and there's my Pantone blue, and I can see that down in my swatches. So let me create some shapes and show you how to place colors in those shapes using swatches. So I'm just going to create a series of rectangles here, like this. And right now I'm selected on that Pantone blue that we just created, so they're being created using that color. You might see the little guidelines that are popping up, kind of telling me when I've hit the midpoint of certain objects and also helping me line up those corners. And that's a real help when you're trying to line things up. To change the color using swatches, I can click on an object like this, and then I can just click on the swatch color as I'm going through this. So I can click on the object, click on the swatch color. So very easy to change those colors as we go along. Let's make that one slightly different. And kind of keep playing with those like that. Another way to change what's on an object is to use the eyedropper tool. So what I'm going to do is I want to take one of these shapes. We'll take this shape right here, and I'm going to add some extra stuff to it. So I want to put a stroke on there. My stroke options are up here at the top, so I'm going to increase that just so you can see it a little bit. So let's make a change to that stroke color. So I'm up here in the options at the top. I'm going to click on this little arrow to the right, and then I can come in and make a change to that stroke color like that. And make sure your object is selected, and then you can do that. If I want to work in RGB color, I actually double click right on there, and that's going to open up the RGB color picker that we just had. Okay, so again, the little drop down arrow, that will get you to swatches. Double clicking on the icon will take you through the RGB. So I'm going to take this object, I want to add some special effects to it, so I'm going to open up my effects panel. Right here, let's start with maybe a drop shadow, and that's going to give me the option to make some changes to the drop shadow. So I can change the angle, I can change how far it is in distance from the object, make it look like it's popping a little more. We take the opacity down, maybe just a slight amount on that, and make all those changes, and then say OK. So I have a lot of stuff going on with this particular object. And again, if I want to transfer those characteristics from one object to another, the eyedropper is how I do that. So I'm going to get my eyedropper tool off the toolbar here. I'm going to click once on this object, and then when I click on other objects, not only the colors, but you can see that drop shadow is transferring over too. I'm just going to shift this guy up a little bit so you can see that clearly. So lots of ways of getting changes on there fairly quickly, and then remember with your eyedropper tool, it's picking up all sorts of information. So all of those other changes that you've made, you can very quickly apply those to a new object. In the next tutorial, we're going to take a look at arranging objects, some special things with selecting objects, and also look a little deeper into transparency effects.